Oh yeah, we are live, ladies and gentlemen. Hello and welcome to night number 4, night 4 out of 5. As you know, that's 1 week. Wow, it's almost been a whole week already. That's crazy. You know, guys, we have an incredible show lined up for you tonight. I'm so excited about this. I've staggered this so that we build as we go along, because you know, throughout the week, I want to end on a bang, on a high note, and certainly tonight with the discussion of AMX0035, a couple of smaller stem cell products, and then we're going to mention Radicava briefly to discuss and compare a little bit about what we need the FDA to do. And we need the FDA to approve this drug that we're going to talk about tonight. Okay, I'll just straight up say it. Guys, we have an opportunity, or I say we, the FDA has an opportunity right now to put this drug into your body. This drug is called AMX0035. It is a drug that has, as you undoubtedly know, has created an incredible buzz in the ALS community. We're going to talk about this and go over this drug in great detail. Let me first start tonight's show with a quick video of tonight's guest. This guy is he's just an amazing, fun, cool dude, and I wish so much that ALS did not exist, because it truly does hit the best of people. And my guest tonight is Greg Cantor. Many of you are aware of Greg. I had him on in September, as he reminded me. It's been now that long. How many? Let's see, October, November, December, January, February. Well, so almost 5 months ago. And the news is good. And he's going to share a little bit of good news with us tonight. But just to give you a reference, I want you to see how Greg looked. He's even sitting in the same spot with the same deer trophies over his head there. And let me play this for you real quick, and then we'll talk to Greg live.
I didn't know what I was going to do to my body. And that was one of the things I sat down with my family, and I explained to them. I said, this could put me in the ground quicker than if I don't do it. However, we know what's going to happen if I don't take this medicine or get into this trial.
Absolutely.
And I said, maybe this can prolong until the next thing comes along.
Yes.
And just happen to be, that's exactly what's happening. It's allowing me.
Okay, it's allowing him to do what? To come back on this show tonight. Greg, how are you, man? It's good to see you again. You look good. You sound good. You sound the same, which in our world is actually a compliment, as you know. So,
yes, it is.
Tell our new audience on treatment week here, night number 4 out of 5. Introduce yourself, if you would, bud, and tell everybody a little bit about where you've been over the last 5 months and what situation you're in, if you don't mind. And thanks for joining us.
Sure. Well, as you guys know, I'm Greg, and I am 41 years old. I was diagnosed October 2018, so about 2.5 months into it. And back in September, Mike had me on, and we did our first video together. And I've gotten a lot of great responses from other people since then. So everybody that I've met, thanks for contacting me. It's a pleasure to share my experience with you. But to go back from September till now, there really hasn't been a lot of change.
That's a good thing.
My hands, my legs, yes. But my breathing, I mean, it's since COVID is here, I can't do my breathing test where they check for your FBC number to gauge, see where you're at. But
right, that's exactly right.
Back in September, I was around that 45% range, and I mean, I would say I'm right on that same dot.
Okay.
Breathing wise, I mean, I talk the same, I chew, eat, swallow the same. No change. Shoulders up, zero change.
It's incredible, man.
So
And just for our new members out there, sorry to interrupt you here for 1 second, but let me go ahead and show. This is what we're talking about right here, guys, ladies and gentlemen. This is the drug. It's a combination of these two drugs. It's called, there's one that's an over-the-counter. I say drug's the wrong term. It's actually an over-the-counter supplement called Tudka. It's torosodelic acid, and it is gnarly, isn't it, Greg? It's like gnarlier than a skunk's butt, man, I'll tell you.
Yes, it is.
And then the other is sodium phenylbutyrate, and no, sodium butyrate is not the same, and it's certainly not the same in price. I'll tell you that, is it? So this is the drug that we're talking about, or they call it a drug when it comes together. And right now, the FDA is currently deciding the fate of ALS in so many ways, Greg. And I'll interject this before you continue on your story. But guys, if you're watching tonight, I'd like each of you to know that right now is the time to fight for your lives or the life of your loved one. There's two drugs right now that are being considered by the FDA for ALS. And ALS could be a completely different disease by the end of, say, summer. And I don't mean we'd all have access, but what I mean is there are two drugs right now on the precipice of FDA consideration. AMX0035, the drug that Greg is on right now, and Neurone, another drug that we're going to talk about tomorrow night. Actually, it's not a drug, it's a biologic compound. But guys, these two drugs, if approved, will change the trajectory of ALS for the next decade. And it is absolutely critical that you fight right now. If you or somebody you love has ALS, and we're going to show you how to do that. We're going to talk about everything tomorrow night about that. But sorry, I didn't mean to cut in on your time there, buddy. Why don't you go ahead, take us away. I just want everybody to know how crucial this is right now. We are at the most absolutely important time, I think, personally, in ALS history to the ALS patient. Because, as you know, one of the drugs we're going to talk about tonight is just not working like we need it to. And then the one you're on is very popular right now. So take it away, my friend. Tell us a little bit about when you talk a little bit about AMX0035, how you found out about the trial briefly, and then how long in total now you've been taking it, if you don't mind.
Well, it started back around November of 2018. After I tried to get into the Neurone trial, and I missed it by 1%. I was a 64% FBC.
I remember that.
And you had to be a 65%.
Brutal.
And so after not getting qualified for two other ones, and first off, I want to apologize if I cough. I am on day 16 of getting over COVID-19. So I'm alive.
Gosh. Warrior up,
anyway,
man. That's amazing.
I do have a little nasty cough, but
incredible.
But anyway, so I actually tried to get into 3 other studies. I could not get into them, and the fourth one was the Centaur AMX0035.
Yep.
And that was in December of 2018. I started it in January of 2019. From January to June, I have yet been told if I was in the placebo or not. I assume I was, because I noticed a big decrease. I went from like 60% in January of 19 FVC score to a 50% in June. So I dropped about 10% in 5 months, 6 months, 6 months. It was 24 weeks. And so around July, they got me into what they call the open label extension.
Right.
To where I said I will agree to continue the trial, guaranteeing the medicine at that point.
Amazing.
So at that point, they stopped having me down every 3 weeks like they used to. During the trial, every 3 weeks it was going down, getting blood work, doing the FRS, the functional rating scale. There are several things that we tested every 3 weeks during the trial. And as soon as June hit, as soon as July hit, it turned into where it was like every 3 months and then it went to like every 6 months.
Okay.
My last time I went down was about 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Okay.
And I was told that that was my last visit
Okay.
for the trial.
Okay.
The company is gearing itself to go into what they call compassionate use.
Compassionate use. That's amazing.
Or expanded access. I mean,
great.
it's the same thing.
Yep.
And that is where we stand at with that. And something else
Absolutely
that
amazing.
was brought to my attention that I do want to talk about, because I think this is huge.
Please do.
I feel every trial should have what I'm about to ready to discuss. I haven't told, I don't think, anybody about this till now.
Wow. Breaking news here tonight.
Absolutely, it is. They asked me, the company itself, about 2 months ago, if I wanted to be on a 8-person committee, and kind of like how a school board would run in a high school. When everybody meets, they ask questions to us.
Wow.
They use us to gauge for their future. I don't know what to to explain it.
A guidance, like a guidance committee, like
Absolutely.
patient relations, right? Perhaps something like that.
And this 8-person committee is based on 4 people with ALS, which I'm one of the 4.
Right.
And then 4 people carrying the PALs.
Wow.
Or the cows, the people who care for the ALS, the caregivers.
Right.
So they told us about this about 2 months ago, and we actually have our first sit-down meeting this month in February.
Awesome.
And then we have another meeting in March.
Okay.
And I guess we're going to meet like every month or every 2 months. And I think this is huge. This is what they need to hear. They need to hear it from us.
Yeah.
And they might be able to make different decisions based on what's really happening. I mean, they can talk to people with ALS. I'm actually going to be a part of a decision-making process.
Wow.
And I feel that's huge. So
I'm gonna have to start calling you like a VP or something now. I don't know, man.
just pay me.
There you go. Well, that's amazing. How about that? There's a concept in ALS, patient input. I mean, so a few companies have done that. They've asked, and like IMALS is a great group that they have a lot of patients on their in their organization. They're run by an ALS patient. They have several. I think they have a lot of committees. Some of our good friends are on different committees. The big one, not so much. It's kind of the other exact opposite. But that's great news, Greg. I'm glad you're on that. And let's talk now about a big question that everybody wants to know is, well, it's actually a 2-part question. The first part is, do you believe in your heart of hearts now, in hindsight, that this drug has helped you? Is there any doubt in your mind? And number 2 is, should this drug be now FDA approved and bypass phase 2 and go straight to approval?
That's the easiest question to answer. I mean, it's 10,000% for me.
Wow.
I can just answer this from my own standing. I know how fast I went down without the medicine. I mean, I went from 60% to 50% during the trial, that 24-week span where I don't think I got the medicine. And then I went from 50% to 45% up until around that July period.
Wow.
Around the end of July. Wow. So about 15% I dropped in 6 months. And
unbelievable.
A year and a half, a year and 6-7 months later, I'm still in the same boat. My breathing, I would say, is right there where I was at.
Yep. Well, you look like it. I mean, you look like it. So.
And I feel fine. I mean, I don't hurt. I have no pain. A lot of aggravation because of my hands, my feet, my legs. I mean, it's weakness.
Yeah.
But I feel that this medicine that I take, the AMX0035, is really helping my breathing, my lungs, and my diaphragm. The
Wow.
most important things to live. So,
Absolutely.
so,
I mean, that's what gets
so,
us in the end, right? It's the breathing, the bulbar affect. So yeah, go ahead. Absolutely.
so to answer your second question,
Okay.
I mean, it's a no-brainer.
Okay.
And it's not just helping me. I mean, I know several people who are paying out of their pockets, out of the trial, who's gotten the prescription,
Okay.
and they buy the Tudka,
Right.
and I hear the same results from them that
Okay.
they feel is helping them.
Okay.
So I
Amazing.
don't see how I don't see how a company, or I should say a humane company, could say no to allowing this to be accessible for everybody.
Right. Right.
This needs to be one of the drugs, one of the treatments that's in our bodies fighting this disease. And I'm not saying this solely, and we've talked about this in the past, how
Yes.
it's going to take several different combinations, but this has got to be one of them that's included.
No, I could not agree more. And by the way, let me just show you one slide here. This is amazing. I got a cramp in my shoulder, of course. My mouse hand. Anyway, guys, this is an interesting company. Greg's right. This is a really cool slide that I'm putting up now. This gives a little explanation into this company. This is a company that's called AMX Pharmaceuticals. And check this out. It's really kind of cool. It's they've got these two college guys. I think they went to Brown. Is that right? Is it Brown where they went? And
Yes, they did.
They were just chillaxing one night over, and it even says over cheap wine. And they're like, let's start a company, right? And so they did. And they ran their first trial, and son of a gun, the top line results came back solid. And it's an amazing story. And I think, frankly, Greg, I don't know how you feel, but I think the story itself is part of the reason that people are, so excited about this drug as well. But no, I mean, there it is, right there, right there it is. There's the trial. I mean, the results came out in December. It slows disease progression, and many of our viewers have seen, and Everything ALS has also done a good job of having Dr. Paganini on and some of the other people involved. Like Dr. Brown feels strongly about this. So right now the question, I guess, is like you just said, Greg, is the FDA now going to finally, help ALS patients? This is the moment. They could do it. And we ask the FDA as nicely as we can. We hit them pretty hard for a couple of years. We did. We went to DC a couple times, had a couple of protests. And right now the FDA, I would just urge the FDA, please do the right thing. You can do this. We promise we'll be nice from here on out, but this has to be taken seriously, and they got to do the right thing. The FDA has to approve this, because that's, for these small companies, Greg, they just don't have the money to give it to everybody for free. I mean, I wish they did, but if the FDA approves this, then insurance will cover it, right? Is that kind of what you're thinking, or what do you?
Absolutely. And that is spot on what you said about how the medicine was made.
Right.
I spoke to Josh himself, one of the makers of the medicine, Josh and Justin.
Good, cool. I bet that was fun.
And it was a very good conversation.
Okay.
And it was exactly how you said it. They were just nonchalant, trying to come up with something to work. And it was just it wasn't an accident, because they were trying to do this.
Yep.
But they had no clue that. I mean, you have to think. I mean, you go back a couple years, there was nothing really besides Riluzole that has really helped with ALS.
Yep.
And that's the problem, as you talked about, how these companies just can't get funding because.
Yeah.
I mean, when somebody says, "Oh, I've got something that we can stop or cure or reverse ALS," they're like, "Yeah, right."
Right.
I mean, with all the failures we've had in the past with it. So
that's right. That's exactly right.
But but that is a true story of what you showed from what they both told me themselves. And it's
Did they offer you
I'm
any
just
sparkling
thankful.
wine? Did they try to get you drunk or anything? And like,
I wish. No.
so by the way, guys, submit your questions. Greg, you have time for some questions? So we got plenty of time. How's your clock doing here?
Absolutely. I've got
Okay,
all night.
cool. All right, sounds good. Well, let's take a look. Let's take a look back here. I want to make sure I got a couple of good questions here. The first one, I think I saw one in here. Let's see. There's one from Jennifer. I think she submitted the first one. She asked you, would you choose to participate in the Healy platform trial or taking the TUDCA sodium phenylbutyrate? So I guess what she's saying here is, would you choose now to break off and go do
Which one?
the Healy trial? Yeah, well, I mean, I guess we don't have a lot of control over that, right? I mean, there are a couple of subgroups there, a couple of arms, if you will. But maybe I don't think they let you choose. I could be wrong on that, or would you just go ahead and continue with AMX? In other words, are you happy where you're at, or would you take a risk to go to something different?
Taking a risk going into something that I don't know what I'm going into, I would have to say no. I feel so strong of what this medicine is doing for me. And I said this in my previous interview back in September. And it's not a I think, this is a I know.
Wow.
I know
Okay.
I would be in the ground right now if this medicine was not in my body.
Wow, in the ground.
So
that's strong.
this is what's keeping me alive.
Oh my God.
Now, is it helping my whole body? No.
Well, that's actually that's correct. That's what the data shows, Greg. So I mean, that makes sense, honestly. So go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but there is a data
you're
point
fine.
on that. Yeah.
So I know a little bit about the Healy trial,
Right.
and I really like what I've seen. I mean, I think it's great of what they're proposing and doing for us.
Absolutely.
And from my understanding, I think the placebo rate is really low as well. Is that correct?
I think it's 1 to 3, I think. And by the way, you cannot
Yes.
choose which arm you're in. So, like, to me, the gold nano crystals sound pretty cool. I mean, anytime you can eat gold, I think that just sounds cool. So I would probably do that. No, yeah, I guess they don't let you choose. But yeah, it is a lower placebo rate. It's as humane as possible. So that's good, but no, you wouldn't get to choose. So you're right. I mean, if
if I had the choice,
okay,
if I didn't have the choice, I would do whatever I had to get into any clinical trial.
Wow.
And I mean, face it, we know what's at the end of this tunnel. So
we do. Absolutely.
So I guess the question you have to ask yourself is, how fast do you want to get to the end of the tunnel?
Right. Definitely.
And there's actually ways to slow that train down.
There are.
And the one way is to hopefully get into a trial that slows the progression down, like it has me,
right?
Like the Neuron trial has for so many people.
Absolutely.
And I guess to answer your question, I would not do it because of where I sit personally. And it could be something that I could regret later. I mean, after everything comes back from the Healy trial, maybe it shows better promise than what I'm doing. That's my chance that I take.
Okay.
But if you can get into the Healy trial, absolutely.
Oh
Run
yeah,
for it.
Absolutely, for sure, because that really won't cost you anything. You'll have to travel, obviously, but that's not terrible.
Yep.
Because let's face it, to buy right now, sodium phenylbutyrate is varying in price, but it's going to be $1,200 to $1,500 a month at the least. So you could
Yes.
probably travel to a trial site for that. So it's kind of a roll of the dice there, I guess. Let's take a quick look at this little slide here showing some of the data points from this trial that you were in. As you can see here, sodium phenylbutyrate resulted in slower functional decline than placebo, as measured over 24-week period. And here's the one thing that makes sense with what you said, bud. Secondary outcomes were not significantly different between the two groups. And then, of course, they throw in here, they always have to throw this in here and rain on our parade, longer and larger trials are necessary to evaluate the efficacy and safety of sodium phenylbutyrate in people with ALS. First of all, let me say, no, they're not. Okay, no, they're not.
Oh.
Sometimes I wonder if these people actually, if they know what ALS does to people and their lives and their families. And I
don't think they do.
I just don't think they do. If they could live with, I promise you, if any of these people could spend one day with my partner Craig Reagan, just one day. The other night, we were talking, and he was trying to get his finger to touch his phone, and he just couldn't quite make it. And I'm thinking to myself, there are at least 2 to 3 drugs right now that are doable. I mean, within a very short time period, that could stop this disease for a lot of newly diagnosed people. We know that is a fact now. The T-Reg trial produced 100%, as we saw last night, 3 out of 3 success. 3 out of 3. That's 100% people that stopped progressing. And that was in 2017, Greg. So, and then you throw in AMX, and then you throw in neurone. What if we did all 3 in every single newly diagnosed person, or just 2? I mean, what if it's T-Regs and AMX? We got a whole different disease on our hands for a lot of these people.
It's a whole new ball game.
It's insane to me that they won't do this stuff. Taking another quick look here at this data point. This is so there were 177 people in the trial. Or at least they were screened, I should say. 137 were actually what they call assigned into the trial or randomized to receive what you did. Trial dosage was 3 grams twice a day and of sodium phenylbutyrate, and 1 gram twice a day of TUDCA. Now that there was a loading phase, so it was half of that for 2 or 3 weeks. I don't know if you remember that or not.
Yes.
And so you can see the difference in progression here was between people were dropping at 1.66 points a month down to about 1.24. So that's about a 0.42 point per month difference there, which is obviously significant. To me, that placebo rate at 1.66 seems pretty fast, but then again, we don't know. I mean, it was obviously they have a run-in period and all that. So I'm sure it was all a very well-run trial. I don't have any question about that. But if you do notice here at the bottom again, it says the secondary outcomes were not significantly different. Now, secondary outcome would mean one of the secondary outcomes was things like limb strength. So and it missed all the secondary incomes now or endpoints. Now there was a couple that were meaningful, just as they were in the neurone trial, which we'll take meaningful. I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect, but this seems to be a drug that clearly helps breathing. I mean, do you agree with that? And not just to maintain it, but yours came up, which I find to be amazing. Do you agree with that assessment in terms of breathing?
Yes.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Sure.
I'll say this without trying to give anybody any sort of false hope.
Okay.
And I'll just speak exactly what's happened to me.
Please do.
And a test that they do for me is where you can take a deep breath and you count as fast as you can to see how fast or see how far you can count to.
Right.
And as we spoke back in September, I was all happy back in September that the past 6 months I was in the same position really from September to, I don't know where it was, April or whatever, because I was counting to that 66 to 68 number
right
every time.
Right.
And I told you that I wasn't going to say this because I don't want people to think it's really
I know. You're going back on it. That's okay.
But I do think it's important.
Well, and it's amazing too what you're about to tell me. Yeah, it is. It truly is. I don't think I could do it.
3 weeks ago, I counted to 80, and it was right here at my own house.
Amazing.
It was the first time I've ever hit 80, and it's refreshing. It's that self drive that kicks another gear in you.
Incredible.
I hear a lot of people lose that self-drive.
Yeah.
And that self-drive is what causes people to give up.
Yep.
I know I've got friends right now that are, I hate to say it, but they are giving up with this disease.
Yeah.
And that just shows me that you can't. It's showing that this is helping me. It's showing me that it is what we called before buying time.
Yep.
And I'm just waiting till the next step to where I can include AMX with whatever comes next.
Right.
And I feel that, like, I mean, ALS, they say the average is what, around like 1 to 3 years, or the average lifespan is that's what they told me at first.
Yeah, 1 to 3
or
approximately.
3 to 5.
Two to it varies, but no more than, the average is about 2 to 3 years, frankly. Depending if you got bulbar, it's much faster, obviously, much faster death.
But with those numbers, if you can get on medicine like this,
right,
and you take it across a broad spectrum of everybody, or
right,
a high percentage, what's it going to do to your average? It's going to take it from, say, 2 to 4 year average to a 3 to 5 year or a 4 to 6 year average. And then maybe you can stick around long enough till something else comes along. Then all of a sudden, now it's 10 years you can live with ALS. And eventually it's going to come to a point to where we can all be treated. And just like what we saw with HIV.
Absolutely.
I mean, back with I can still remember Magic Johnson with AIDS coming out with HIV.
Exactly.
Everybody like, oh my gosh, he's got AIDS. He's
It's
going to
over.
die.
Right. It's over.
And,
Yep.
And now, I mean, he's as healthy as can be. I mean,
Nobody
he
thinks
appears
of him.
to be.
Nobody thinks of him having ALS or HIV. In fact, I think his viral load's undetectable. HIV has now been cured 3 times, by the way. That's what I've read. 3 times with a full cure, and they've been done. 2 of those were with stem cells. I mean, take it for what it's worth, but that was what was reported. I had to read it 3 times, but interesting. No, I could not agree with you more, man. That's a great analogy. We'll take another look here at a couple of these questions. Let's see. You're getting a lot of comments. People love the deer. People love the mounts. Yeah, they're loving those. And then for some reason, my stupid questions aren't going back very far. Oh, here we go. I just figured out a way to do it. Let's see. Let's see. I want to make sure I get some good questions here. You got a fellow hunter here saying that they really like your setup. Let's see. Greg Haydett just came in late and wanted a quick update on limb strength. No, Greg, limb strength is Greg believes he's still getting a little weaker in the limb area there. I would say, is that a fair assessment? Why don't you readdress your limbs one more time, just to clear that up. That's the big question that everybody wants to know. How's your limb strength?
I live alone. I do everything while I'm here. I mean, I walk. I do use a walker or assistance.
Okay.
I do struggle with my hands. I mean, I'll show you right here. You see
okay, please do.
My hands, my hands are. I mean, they're shot. I can't say they're good because they're not.
Right.
My left hand, I can still use it. My right hand is 99% gone.
Right.
I mean, I've got movement in my arm. It's just my hands, my fingers. So my legs they're weak.
Me too.
I struggle getting up.
Me too.
I struggle getting up, but I still do get up. And I don't know. I mean, I hope that answers.
It does.
At least shows you.
I think it does help. Yeah, I'm getting a lot of questions about that. That seems to be a big question. Is how about limb strength? And so we got people constantly coming in at different times. So there you go, guys. There's the answer to that question is not really. And frankly, that's what the data in the trial showed. But that's okay. It's not a reason to down the drug. Every drug that helps this disease, we must have access to it. We simply must. Here's that data point I was talking about. If you look here, it says in the middle in the green box that actually, again, it was not statistically significant, but it was a little bit there. It was to some extent. The AMX0035 group also showed a trend towards slower muscle strength and lung function decline and fewer hospitalizations. So it was, what's the word I'm looking for? I always forget this word. It's not significant, but it's meaningful. There you go. More than 95% of patients in both groups reported at least one adverse event. So let's address that real quick. That's a high rate, and most of those I think were gastro. Greg, what kind of issues did you have, if any, with taking the drug?
None really.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, I notice more now,
right,
than I ever have.
Okay.
And I've noticed some like gastro problems in the past, I don't know, past couple months, I guess.
Okay.
And I don't know what, I can't tie it to anything. I don't know what I'm doing differently.
Okay.
But they say it comes with the medicine. But I mean, I've been on the medicine now. I know since July 19.
Right. July. Okay.
I think
July
that
19.
I would have. I think it would have happened before 2 or 3 months ago.
Yeah, I would think so.
If it was this medicine.
Right.
So right. I'm not certain about that. So I haven't noticed really anything where it bothers me.
Okay.
The medicine. The medicine's nasty. Now,
yeah.
Okay.
How do you mix it? What's your trick? Give everybody the trick out there.
No, it's nothing. I'm actually, I feel awful saying this because I know you guys have to take the nasty medicine, but in the trial they actually put a berry flavoring into it,
right?
To where it's not as bad as taking a lot of the bitterness away.
I think it was Kool-Aid myself, if you want to know the honest truth. I think they just threw some Kool-Aid in there.
I wish, but no. I mean, it comes in a pack.
Okay.
I think I've got some. I don't know if you can see. This is just a pack of medicine.
Oh wow! Oh man! Awesome.
I've got right here in front of me, and I just empty that into a cup of water. Takes about 10 minutes for it to dissolve.
Okay.
And I drink it.
Wow.
And I got 2 packets a day. I take one in the morning, one in the evening.
Okay.
Actually, with my day and night schedule, it's more like one in the early afternoon and one late at night.
Okay.
So,
does taking that later?
I'm a night owl.
I am too. I really am. I have a bad habit of snacking late. Does that cause any issues gastro-wise if you take your medicine and then go like straight to sleep on it? You don't wake up with a bellyache or anything like that?
Nope. Actually,
Okay.
I take my first set of medicine I take with food.
Okay.
My nighttime medicine. I mean, I eat usually like around 7 o'clock in the evening for my dinner.
Okay.
And I don't take my medicine until about 2 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
So I take it like
you
2
are
in
a
the
night
morning,
owl, man. That's a morning owl.
And like 2 in the afternoon. 2 in the afternoon is like my morning dose.
Okay.
And then 2 in the morning is my nighttime dose.
Okay.
But I don't notice anything. I just take it.
Great. So that knocked out that 2 or 3 questions there. Somebody said, are you taking Riluzole or Radicava? Because that was allowed during the trial. One of the questions I had was how were they able to separate during the trial if the results were from 100, if they knew without a doubt that the results were from AMX or could there have been a residual result? And I think Dr. Paganini's answered that quite sufficiently and said they had a very extensive modeling program they used or something to be able to split out the difference between the results or whatever. So they were able to determine that. So one more time, your other regimen you're on Riluzole. Is that what you're taking?
Yes.
Okay, but not Radicava.
And no.
Okay.
And I do have a feeding tube, as we spoke about back in September.
Yep.
September of 19, I had a feeding tube installed.
Okay.
Still till today, I've never used it. We flush it with water every night.
Awesome.
But actually using it, I've never had to use it for anything.
Great.
And that's one thing about this medicine, the AMX medicine. You can put that through a feeding tube, so you don't have to taste it. I choose not to. I mean, like I said, it's not bad for me what I experienced. So,
okay. And you're not a familial ALS patient, right? Somebody asked that. Are you sporadic? Has anybody in your family had it?
It's sporadic limb onset.
Okay.
And as far as we know, nobody in my family. And actually, my mother and I, we were talking just, I think maybe Monday night or one night you was doing something on one of your other shows or other videos. And we got talking about maybe that's what we need to do is go get a test done.
Yeah, agreed.
Just to see at this point, because
I agree.
It makes you wonder. And I mean, there's people in my family who they have weak bodies, weak hands, weak fingers.
Okay.
But it's nothing progressive really, like what ALS is.
Right.
But it just makes you wonder, like, is it or
were they
isn't
prone
it?
to it? Right. In other words, did they maybe have weak mitochondria, or did they, smaller frame, more fragile? I mean, my mom's side of the family was like that. She was small and fragile, kind of. Grandma lived a long time, but obviously, I don't know. That came up. That question came up is if you knew you had any family history. Let's see. I won't ask you to go over a lot of the same questions. People, thanks for your questions.
Okay.
That I would recommend just go ahead and watch this back over just for the most common questions.
You can ask me anything.
Well, once again, you were diagnosed in June, or your main ALS diagnosis. When was that again? Just to remind everybody.
It was October 18th, 2018.
Okay. All right.
And just to give a real quick rundown of how it happened, January of 2018, I got up for work one morning and I was working construction. I got myself ready. Everything was fine. About 11 o'clock that morning, I went to the bathroom and I was unable to use my two fingers on my right hand to where I couldn't unbutton or unzip my pants.
Okay.
Literally from 6 o'clock in the morning to 11 o'clock,
wow,
something happened.
Wow. It was
from
that
January.
sudden.
Yeah. From January January of 18 until September 22nd of 18.
Okay.
I thought I had carpal tunnel in my hand.
Yeah,
it was only in my one hand, my two fingers. I had to do a DOT physical for work, of which I failed because of fasciculations that they saw in my skin and muscle loss, the atrophy in my hand.
Right, exactly.
So they sent me to a neurologist. They sent me to my family doctor.
Man.
And the crazy thing is my family physician, first time I seen her, she's like 32 years old, fresh into it. I walked in 3 minutes. She looked at me and goes, ALS.
No.
And I'm like, dude, what?
Right.
She says ALS. About 2-3 days went by. She got me into the neurologist. October 18th, 2018 was my first diagnosis. And that was at St. Elizabeth Hospital in Northern Kentucky. Then I went to the Cleveland Clinic, got a second diagnosis at the Cleveland Clinic. Came back to UC at Cincinnati at UC. Got third diagnosis, and I got a fourth diagnosis when I got into my clinical trial down at Lexington at UK Hospital.
Okay. Wow.
So it was terrible. It was a real quick process.
Well, sometimes it is. It was for me, honestly. I mean, if guys can be pretty stubborn, and we like to wait. We tend to wait to go to the doctor. So when I showed up, I'd already had a ridiculous amount of leg atrophy. You could actually see my right leg was way smaller than my left leg, and that was kind of a very similar deal for me. Like my general physician, like, you know, he just all of a sudden, like his entire demeanor changed, you know, and that worried me. I remember I left that day, you know, I went in going in thinking I had a circulation problem or, you know, something dumb like a blood clot or something, and I left there just with that first sick feeling. You know, we all have had that feeling, like oh, something's up.
Well, you know something, I haven't told many people this, but
there's only probably a couple thousand people that'll see this, so it's just between us.
when I got diagnosed, I begged the doctor to tell me that I had cancer.
Yeah.
I mean, how bad is it that you're begging for a doctor to tell you that you've got cancer, a brain cancer, blood cancer, something in your blood?
That's right.
Because you know how bad ALS is.
Anything, and that's the thing.
And
yeah, we've got a drug here that obviously is making an impact in lives, and I would just urge the FDA again. If you're watching this, if you're a patient tonight, please share this with fellow patients. Tell them to watch this interview. It amazes me, Greg, how few people, and this is not a knock on our fellow patients, it's really not, but I go into the other groups, caregiving groups and things, and I see good people in these groups, the best people out there, and they are so just uninformed. It's because the doctors that we have, they offer nothing. They tell them, you know, when you're told to go home and die, and that's what most people do, and there's not a but in there. The doctors don't say, well, you're likely going to die, but there's some new drugs coming. You may want to consider jumping in and see if you can, you know, if something's not FDA approved to our average doctors, they just do not care. It's dead to them. And so when people have started now coming in and asking for this drug, some doctors have said, okay, I'll do it. And some doctors have said no. And one of the things we are going to release very soon, I just couldn't get it done for tonight, but we are going to have a letter to take with you to your doctor so that you can, and it'll be signed by 2 medical doctors as well. And we heard Dr. Brown on a webcast the other night actually say he was prescribing it, you know, already, and going to bat for insurance now. You know, I wouldn't say something like that unless he said it on a webcast, but he did. So, and I would suggest that you all please try to get your doctors to prescribe this, and then you can make the decision, because it may take you a while to find a doctor. I'd say right now it's running about 40-60 against prescribing it, but we will have a letter for you and the trial data. By the way, this is the clinical trial. If you guys don't want to wait on that, I mean, we'll have it done very quickly, but I want to show you the actual clinical trial. This was it right here. This was the trial. This is the number and everything on here. You can see. And there are some powerhouse doctors lined up with this trial. So, guys, we have all of this on No More Excuses for you. We will have the letter where you can download it probably on Monday or Tuesday. So go ahead and call your doctors. Try to get an appointment. We'll have this letter for you, and then we'll have the studies also. We're going to provide the studies so that it's like a kit. All you have to do is call your doctor and just beat on them until they say, okay, I'll do it. And frankly, some of them may not, and you may have to look for a new doctor if you really want to try this drug. And I think that's a shame, because it has to be prescribed. Half of it does. So let me check the questions one more time, and then we will. Okay. Greg, I'll let you get back to. You know, it's still early for you if you go to bed every night at like 2 a.m. So this is nothing for you. So everybody's really checking in, saying thank you. One question, I see a couple of questions about your voice. It still sounds good. Do you think your voice has changed at all, or what do you think there?
No. If it does sound any different, it's because of what I'm going through this post-COVID stuff.
Right, exactly.
But
amazing to think you had COVID. That's just incredible to me. Wow.
This shows you everybody like us does not die with that disease or with a virus. So
that's right. Yeah,
it's scary. Right. It's scary.
Yeah,
but
it is.
I'm a witness. So
yep.
But no, actually, my voice, I haven't noticed any difference. I've been a hillbilly my whole life.
Well, come to Oklahoma sometime. You'll see a few here too. So, we're proud of it. Greg, I want to say thanks. Is there anything else you want to say about this drug, or encourage anybody to do something before I let you go? And I just want to say thanks again for doing this.
I mean, if I can say anything, everybody's part of the fight, not just who's in the trial. If you have not contacted your senators, the representatives,
That's right.
I mean, there's things that everybody can do to pitch in to speed up these processes of getting access to the medicine. And if you haven't written letters, if you haven't made phone calls, I urge you, please do so.
Absolutely.
And it's just, it's all part of this fight that we're in together.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for doing this, man. I very, very much appreciate it.
Thanks for having me back.
Maybe we come on again in another 6 months. Let's just keep checking in, see how you're doing, and we'll go from there. And I'm going to move in to the next part of the program. And I think as we go from tonight and until tomorrow, people, I hope, will finally understand that the patients are not being really treated fairly in this battle with ALS. There are drugs that are approved that are not as effective as something that you're taking, and yet they're still approved. And by the way, that's fine. Any drug that shows a possible or potential or proven success rate for ALS must be FDA approved. And we'll show you why and how. Every little point matters in this fight. And so thanks, man. I appreciate it. Let's talk again
guys.
soon. Keep in touch. And everybody's saying thank you, Greg, so much. And I'll see you later, man. Go get you another trophy to hang on the wall, man.
Appreciate you guys. Have a good night.
Okay, bud. See you, man. Bye.
Bye.
All right, friends. There you go. I'm going to fix my little two-shot here real quick. Give me 1 second so I can put my fancy little slides over in here. Okay, AMX show folder. There we go. All right, guys. So, Greg's just an amazing guy. I want to say thanks again to Greg. It's the second time he's been on. Looks good. I really could not see any detectable difference in him after 6 months. Wow, he even had COVID as well, which is insane. That's to have those kind of results. Somebody asked if FVC, forced vital capacity, had changed in the trial, and here's one thing that happened, and I think it probably happened at the end of this trial as well. I don't know that there's published FVC data. There may be, but the primary endpoint for the trial, as you can see here, was not FVC. It was a decline in FRS again, which, as you see, went from 1.66 down to 1.24. So that's a sizable guys. That's a sizable improvement, and that's why this drug is being considered right now for FDA approval. And it's that simple. And so moving forward here, we'll just get going kind of into the program. Greg was so comprehensive. There's really not a lot left that can be said. Frankly, he was extremely thorough. I would recommend that you give this drug a try. So guys, let's take a look at something here. We've seen a lot of buzz about this drug, and rightly so. Any drug that shows this effect should be approved by the FDA. And we're going to talk a lot more about this tomorrow night. We're going to take a look at all the drugs at this moment. And I've got some really good stuff coming tomorrow night. So I urge you, do not miss. You're going to see new stories. And you're going to see new people with this drug, or with the drug I'll feature tomorrow night, Neuron. And the evidence is already adequate. You heard Greg say there in his interview that he believes it should also be approved. But you can see here that the ALS Association is solidly behind skipping a phase 3 trial, for AMX. You can see here 4 years here. That's the timeline we're looking at here. And it says in the top corner there under my live bug there, I'll see if I can take it away, we need pathway number 1. Well, yeah, we do, but you know what? We also need a lot of new pathways, guys. We need a lot of new drug pathways. HR8662 could have been a perfect combination or perfect solution to get expanded access to this drug. We're going to talk about HR8662. I'm not sure it'll happen tomorrow, but maybe next week. But guys, got to support that. And Greg was right. Got to start calling our congressmen and all those. Not quite yet. We're waiting for this to settle, all the DC stuff to settle down again. We'll blow the whistle. Michelle Lorenz has got that firmly in hand, and when we do that, man, I know we can finish it this time. We came so close last time. But you can see here that this has been a 4-year path to success, guys. 4 years. And the ALS Association is doing what it should be doing. It's asking the FDA to fight for you, the ALS patient. Right now, it's asking. It's not asking for anything else right now. It's not asking for Neuron. It's not asking for T-regs to be expedited. In fact, tomorrow night we got some really breaking news on T-regs today. The T-reg procedure. You heard last night Sharon Bradley come on and say her husband stopped progressing for a whole year on T-regs. There's 3 patients in that first trial. T-reg just got a $10 million infusion today. And guys, that is incredible. A private citizen stepped up, basically. His dad had, I think, FTD, and a private citizen stepped up, formed a company. He said today in the article he watched 3 slides from Dr. Appel's presentation and bought in. Immediately was hooked. Started a company. And trust me, we're going to have somebody from that entity on. We've already talked to them about that. And we're going to do everything we can. Because let's face it, we all know the T-regs should be here by now. It's not. We all know why. And look, here's the way I see this, is if the big association is not going to fund the drugs that are the fastest, the smartest, the correct drugs, the ones that are proven, the ones that could be done for you and your loved one, not another 5 or 10 years, then patients will do it ourselves. And that is the future of ALS, my friends. That's why 2021, I think, is going to be our year finally, because patients are starting to wake up. Patients are woke. Now it's taking a while. That's why I urge all of you, please go in, try to wake your fellow patient up. Like, look at this yesterday. You saw this. The Alzheimer's Association CEO said that about a new drug that they want approved right now. There's a drug that had mixed data. It's called aducanumab. And the Alzheimer's Association president and CEO came out and said, due to the crushing realities faced by individuals and families living with Alzheimer's, no approved treatment for the underlying disease exists. They want the FDA to approve aducanumab or whatever it is. That is leadership, my friends. That's what the ALS Association is doing for AMX0035. By the way, a drug that it stands to make money on versus not doing it for Neuron. Let me be clear. Both aducanumab and AMX0035 had mixed data. So it's not just because that AMX0035 hit its primary endpoints, because leadership is leadership. Doesn't matter what you're asking for. The ALS Association should immediately reverse course on Neuron. It is not pro-Neuron, and it should immediately go to the FDA with that letter and say, look, we want you to approve AMX0035 and Neuron right now. You have the opportunity. Neuron's ready for approval. It's done with phase 3. AMX could skip a phase 3 trial, and I pray and hope that it does. A letter like this right here from the ALS Association could go a long way to changing ALS right now, this year. It's all it would take, support. You wonder why the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation is worth $4 billion, and the ALS is in generally worth $100 million, about the same number of patients. It's leadership right there. It's smart, savvy leadership. The Cystic Fibrosis Foundation made, I think, $3 billion from the last 2 or 3 drugs that were approved for cystic fibrosis, which is now 90% treatable. 90% treatable. Recently, spinal muscular atrophy, multiple sclerosis, they're all treatable because they have leadership. They have solid leadership, and they're making things happen. And meanwhile, ALS has fallen flat on its butt. We need these 2 drugs, and we must now urge the FDA nicely. Guys, I want to stress this. We need this to be nice when we do this. We need to be. We're going to talk much more about this tomorrow night. I'm going to update you guys on the Neuron situation. You heard today the company say in the call, it is talking with the FDA. And frankly, that's a good sign. It is a very good sign. We've said from the beginning that drug must be approved. It had mixed data too. just like AMX did. AMX missed its secondary endpoints, but made its primary based on that FRS score, and NurOwn kind of did the opposite of that. It had a very good subgroup that really kicked butt across 36% of the trial. It had a placebo group that was really robust, as you know. And guys, it's doable. I mean, we all know, look, let's just be honest. We all see these people with NurOwn from this trial who have had some incredible results. And you're going to see some more tomorrow night. Okay, we're going to end with a bang. NurOwn works. There's no question it works, just like there's no question AMX0035 works. It must be approved. Both of them must be approved. These drugs work. And we cannot continue to let people die like this, waiting on perfect, waiting on flawless, because it's not coming for ALS, guys. It is not coming. Look at this. Here it is, right here. The ALS Association, I am ALS, calling AMX and FDA to make new drug available for our community. Yeah, well, where the heck are you on NurOwn? Do the right thing also, please. It's not worth dying on the NurOwn hill, okay? I know things are not going well. Please do the right thing, okay? It's not just COVID. People are mad, and they're mad because you're not showing leadership. Brian Wallach and the other group, all these other groups, they are showing leadership. They're getting aggressive, they're kicking butt, and they're trying to put these drugs into bodies. Again, you can see here, ALS Association all over AMX0035. You know, and it should be. This is the right, by the way, that's the right thing to do right there. That's the right thing to do. It's what they should be doing. They should be doing it for NurOwn as well. They absolutely should be. Here's why. Look, guys, the NurOwn phase 3 trial, 35% of responders across the whole trial, improvement of 2.01 points over a 28-week period. That's exactly, well, it's not quite the results of the AMX on the FRS score. It's a little less, but every point counts, guys. That's the thing. I mean, and remember, they took a much broader range of patients, so every single point matters. Again, as we see here, look, I've shown this all 3 nights in a row. Each point on the ALS FRS scale is a 7% decline in quality of life. I mean, the difference is huge by 2 or 3 points to change somebody's life with this disease. It absolutely is. And this is, as we leave AMX0035 and move on now, Paganoni is the principal investigator on the AMX0035 trial. They did a very good job on this trial. It must be approved right now. And then look at the bottom. Look what she says. Let me take my little scroller out of the way. Look at the very bottom what she says there. A 2 to 3 point change might sound small, but really on this scale, even a small change can mean a large impact on people. Now let me scroll back too here. This is the NurOwn phase 3 trial. How many points is that? 2.01. I mean, look at this. And look at what Paganini says. 2 to 3 point change might sound small. It's not small to me. I mean, it's not small to a bunch of people. And guys, we can transform this disease this year if we get smart and if we do the right thing. And I pray and I hope that is exactly what the FDA does. We've got a chance right now. They have a chance. Janet Woodcock and her team have a chance to transform this disease. I urge all of you now, please share this with your friends. Tell them, please write a nice letter. You know, contact the FDA. Be nice. Okay, we've already done the nasty, mean part. We just need your help to ask for these drugs. Ask for your lives. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with it at all. It is our right. I mean, look, guys, I see we've all seen these things online. These the praying hands, so sorry for your loss, and the ALS is so damn tragic. Look at this. If everybody that was typing these, if everybody that was typing this stuff, guys, would just take the time to instead send a message to the FDA, right? Look, the praying hands are great, and trust me, I am a devout Christian, but guys, we got to have boots on the ground. We got to have action at the FDA to fix this. Please, we've got to have it, and we can do this. We can do it right now. Briefly, one of the other drugs we're going to just discuss for context, and I want you again to see why the AMX and Radicava should be no-brainers. And I do still get a lot of questions about Radicava. Okay, look, I do. We are not anti-Radicava. We're not at all. Absolutely not. Before I talk about that, I also want to show you some of your hard work here. Look, guys, these are responses we've had from congressmen when we were fighting to get HR 8662 approved. Look at this. I mean, all of these people are kicking butt. They're taking the time to write letters. Look at these responses. They're all signing up for this. It's amazing what's going on. And then the last one is incredible. And I guess maybe I left it out. But one of them said, I'm not kidding you. One replied and said they had never seen this many letters before for any issue. I think it was a healthcare issue, they said. We sent so many letters, you guys did last year, that they absolutely could not believe it. And that's why we got 280 co-sponsors twice. Once for 7071, and then when the bill got changed to 8662, we got the same number again. So let's just talk quickly about why Radicava is approved, because this is relevant, guys. Pay attention, please, very closely, because you're going to see this is relevant right now for AMX0035 and for Neurone, okay? And Radicava should be approved. We're not anti-Radicava. We want equality, that's all. 4,000 people in 2 years were treated with Radicava. It's a drug that, as you know, they claim about a 30% response rate on this drug, okay, which, man, sounds great. 33%, or excuse me, not a response rate, but a 33% reduction in progression. Sounds great, but that's not exactly how it worked out. The problem is, guys, is that the entrance requirements for Radicava were very, very lax, or excuse me, strict. In other words, you had to be very healthy. You can see here, definite or probable ALS to get in. You had to have a score of greater than 2 on all items of the ALS FRS score. So if you couldn't climb a stair, you were DQ'd. Grade 1 or 2 Japan severity classification, which is again very healthy. Greater than 80% FVC, a disease duration of less than 2 years, and be age 20 to 75. Now, why is that important? Well, it's because the trial took a very healthy set of individuals and it produced a result on the FRS score. That's why the drug was approved. And as you know, ALS is very in with Radicava and with Mitsubishi. They do make money on this drug, just like they will AMX0035, which, believe me, is fine. I don't care. If you produce results, more power to you. But my point here is this, is that we must approve drugs on an equivalent basis. And that's all we're asking for with AMX0035 right now and for Neurone. If you've done it before, done something before, then just do it again. And that's all. That's all you got to do. You can see here, look at this, a 2.49 point difference between Radicava and placebo at 24 weeks. So here we are talking about, remember what Dr. Paganini said, that a 2 to 3 point difference means a lot to people. The thing about Radicava, though, is that group of people in the trial, all the trials failed except for one small group, about 130, very healthy people. This is relevant. It's important, guys, to know this, because Radicava was only found to be effective for about 7% of ALS patients, roughly, that met all those criteria. 7%. Now remember, AMX0035 is way more than that. And Neurone, as you know, is somewhere in the 35% range, which is incredible. By the way, the other thing is that Radicava was done with all Japanese data, or DNA, excuse me, and data. This is important because, look, Japanese DNA is different in ALS. It is different. But you know what? The fact that it was different was not enough to prevent the FDA from doing the right thing. And this is what we need them to do right now. We need the FDA to approve this drug, both of these drugs, based on all the available evidence, totality of the evidence, however you want to say it. We need the FDA to do the right thing, to step up for ALS, just like it has for other diseases recently, like COVID. We all know what happened there. And look at this. The FDA invited Edaravone to apply for approval for ALS without U.S. trials or an IND. This is unprecedented. And the drug's efficacy was minimal at best. Okay, so here's the thing. Guys, the FDA did the right thing. We're not mad at them for approving this drug. It should be approved, just as AMX0035 should be. We just want the same standards applied. That's all. That's all. Now, Radicava, many people don't know this. The FDA even did another really smart thing that other doctors have said should be done now maybe for AMX0035 even, and for Neuron. Something called a contingent approval, sort of by post-market conditions, commitments, excuse me. This is how it was approved. This is how Radicava was approved. Most people don't know this. Another trial was required after approval. Look at this at the bottom. The FDA wanted Mitsubishi to do another 24-week trial. Guys, this is called post-marketing commitment. It can be done. Some of the best doctors in the world have said it's good pharmaceutical practice to do that, and we could not agree more. We want the FDA to approve AMX0035 and Neuron based on that information. Guys, we need these drugs. We need them right now. Look at what it's done for Greg's life. You're going to see more people tomorrow that have had an incredible result. There's no doubt that these two drugs work. What we're arguing about is whether they work enough. And look at ALS. I submit to anybody out there, just follow an ALS patient for one day and then tell me that they should not have the right to try these new drugs. Look at this. This is an article about Radicava again. 7% of patients is what the findings applied to. All the other trial groups failed. They finally found one group that made it past the FRS score. Okay? We believe Radicava offers new hope for people with ALS. And you know what? I agree. It did offer hope. I tried it twice. I just had my port removed. It was not effective for me. Made me worse. And that's, you know what? That's fine. I'll take it. It was worth the shot. Because you know what? There are people out there who do think that it does make them better. And that's great. It's all about choice. Clearly, it's all about choice. And frankly, ALS TDI, just like I showed you last night with CUATSM, they did the same thing. They looked over Radicava, and they had a question about the Japanese data. And they said they were worried about what they felt was a set of characteristics for a person with ALS that may or may not show benefit. And what they mean there is, again, we're talking about people in that trial who were very healthy. I don't know the demographics of the AMX0035 trial. If anybody does, I'd love to see them. Please send them to me. I do know the demographics of the Brainstorm trial. We all do. It was released, and they had a wide range in there. They had some very sick people in that trial. Okay, if it did that well with that many people who were sick, man, I can't imagine what it would do if the whole trial had been these people that were in the Radicava trial, basically new people with ALS. It would have been through the roof. The thing is, guys, we don't have time to waste. We don't have time to waste. These drugs have to be approved. They're good enough. We all know they're good enough. And they must be approved right now. So I want to talk now. I'm going to try to find the next set of drugs that real quick I want to talk about. By the way, guys, there are more stem cell procedures that are being postulated for ALS. One of them is very exciting. It's called Seneca. This is a new, I say new, it's called NeuralStem, NSI 566. There's a variety of names for it. This is an exciting new therapy that I think they're very much working on. And there's another stem cell procedure called AstroRx coming out of Israel that had very similar results, again, to what you saw in phase 2 of Neuron. There are other things today, again, that huge announcement for Tregs. You saw last night, copper ATSM. We can do this, guys, if we want. We really can. The ALS could be slowed down very quickly. Right at the bottom here, this study provides class 4 evidence that for patients with ALS, spinal cord transplantation of human cells can be safely accomplished and does not accelerate the progression of the disease. okay? I want to be clear. This is not the same procedure as Neurone. It's much more invasive, so I don't want to compare it to that. But, man, there's so much happening right now. Look at this. The pipeline for Seneca, it's in phase 2 right now. I'm not sure if it's done or not. NSI-566 is the code name for that. Look, guys, these drugs are doable. We can do this if we try. Everybody should get involved in this fight. We need your help. The point of doing this treatment week is to raise awareness on actually taking action, not asking for money, not giving any more money to these various places. It's about taking action. Right now is the time to do it. When we begin our fight for 8662 again, please join the fight. We're trying to set up the next year in ALS right now, because if we get good news from the FDA right now on AMX0035 and Neurone, man, we have a whole different disease on our hands by the end of this year, guys. It could be. It really could be. We need your help. I mean, I'm begging, please jump in the fight now, because there's so much happening right now. There really is. Let's go through some of this here just quickly, and then I'll let you all go. I spent a lot of time with Greg tonight because I really wanted to. Let's look again at Seneca Biopharma, again with NSI-566. The FDA provides guidance on these trials. So the interesting thing again, is that, guys, the Neurone trial and the AMX trial, the FDA is working on these. So it's their trial design. So the way I see it is, hey, if it's good enough for them, it should be good enough for approval. So we need these drugs approved. We absolutely need these drugs approved. Let me see if there's anything else in here. Yeah, here's an article by Jonathan Glass. Long-term phase 1-2 spinal cell transplantation outcomes. These are all recent. I mean, the point in why I'm showing you these is that the idea there's an idea in ALS that stem cells don't work for ALS. That is not a fact. There are now at least 4 or 5 different companies or people who have stem cells in the works for ALS. It's very much a valid line of reasoning and logic, and one of these is going to make it to the finish line, and of course we know which one it needs to be. All right, next drug really quick. There's a drug that many of you have heard about. It's actually a cancer drug for dogs. Macetinib is what it's called. This has promise. I'm going to tell you something. Macetinib is really promising. Some of the early results looked really, really good. There was actually some of the work was being done in Canada, I believe, on this one. AB Science is a French company, and Macetinib met its main phase 2 and 3 clinical trial goal of improving the function of ALS patients, according to its maker. So there was a trial. There's the number. You can look it up. But look, guys, another drug that's successful for ALS apparently in trial. Macetinib is the name of it. And it's for dogs. There was a 48-week trial. 394 patients were randomized to either get 4.5 milligrams per day, milligrams per kilogram of weight per day of macetinib and riluzole. And it says there in the blue circle, the primary endpoint, again, was the ALS FRS score, and that's something that we have to change and help out, and hopefully the data that comes from some of these trials will do that. But for now, it's FRS score. But being that it is the FRS score again, they also added a secondary endpoint of survival. And probably the reason they did that is that, I don't know if you knew this, but in Europe, drugs have to be able to prove longer term survival. And that's the same for cancer, I believe, here too. So that's not the case for ALS now, thank God, because that would basically blow out even more drugs, frankly. Although we did recently find out that AMX0035 did prolong survival, as does riluzole or riluzole, however you want to say it. So it might not actually be that bad. I mean, with ALS patients, guys, we know if we're getting worse or we're staying the same. We know, we really do. I think personally, The patient's input should be much stronger than a 12 questionnaire or whatever it is. I think it's 12 questions. We need something better, but we don't have it. So for now, the FDA has got to consider all of the evidence. It has to. And this brings me to this. I get a lot of questions about clinical trials. There's so many drugs. Which ones do I want to be in? Which ones can I be in? Guys, just go right here to IMALS Signal. This is their clinical trial dashboard. You can type in a variety of things. The recruiting status. If you want something that starts right now, you can type that. You can actually put that in here. There's a number of search criteria here that you can actually put in there. But you put your location in. It's a great tool. It really is. Everybody should be using this thing. And the last thing one of the last things I want to show you here, actually, pretty much, is there's a misconception that phase 3 trials are the riskiest phase. They are not. They're not. Let me put it this way. By the time phase 3 comes along, the drug has already made safety, and it's already established basic efficacy. Phase 2 has to do that. So some of these, I won't mention any names, but let's just say the big one tends to kind of mislead people on this. It says it does not fund phase 3 trials. That is a mistake, my friends. It should be funding them, and it should be funding them right now. And the reason is simple. It is because phase 3 trials are more likely to be approved or pass and be approved. And once a drug is made it that far, it's very doable. I think the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation and others have been very good about picking the best targets and not using this shotgun approach. Phase 3 is where we either make or break drugs for ALS. The phase 2 data for Amylyx, for AMX0035, is great. It was just as good for Neurone, and yet people say it wasn't powered for efficacy. Let me rephrase this problem just so everybody knows before we quit tonight. But we have multiple drugs that are effective. There's no debate over this. Okay, I don't want to hear Neurone failed. It did not fail. Okay, I don't want to hear that 6 months that AMX slows that gives you an extra 6 months. I don't want to hear that that's not enough. Okay, it is. We are making a choice now to not treat this damn disease. We can do this, and I would urge all of you, please join the fight and go out and drag people kicking and screaming with ALS. All you got to do is just really educate them. Most people have no idea that this whole battle is going on right now. Most people have no idea that right now, as the FDA decides on AMX0035 and Neurone, this is the most critical time for ALS ever, because these drugs could be done now very quickly, and that's huge. We've got to stop saying another 3 or 4 or 5 years in ALS, and we've got to do these things now, okay? And we can do it right now. These drugs are ready to go. All the FDA has to do is look at the data and go like this. Send that letter out. They're approved with post-marketing conditions, both of them. And guess what, guys? ALS is treatable. It's treatable in a meaningful way for every new person that walks in that doctor's office and hears what Greg, I, and every one of you have heard. You have ALS. What do we do? What do we do, doc? Nothing. There's nothing effective. Well, we can decide if we want to approve these drugs, and the doctor can say, well, yeah, there's a couple of new things this year. You have hope. You can have hope now. You can go get your stem cells taken, or your bone marrow aspiration next week down in Dallas or wherever. Or guess what? You can go to the pharmacy right now and start AMX0035 tomorrow. I mean, that's hope. That's the point of all this. That's what the FDA could do right now. Not another year or 2 or 3 or 4, right now. So guys, that's it tonight. I want to say thanks. Tomorrow night is going to be amazing. Do not miss tomorrow night. It's going to be Neurone, of course, and several other drugs, as usual, that I'll mention. But we all know why we're here. Just cut to the chase. We all know what we want and why we want it. It's because this drug works. Period. It did not fail. It did fail to meet the primary endpoint. Okay, I got it. Look, I got it. That's not the proper context. If we don't approve every new drug because it's not perfect, I mean, technically, AMX0035 failed its secondary endpoints. As you heard Greg say, it's really not slowing his limb progression down much, but it is helping his breathing. And tomorrow night, we're going to have more evidence of Neuron's efficacy, and then we're going to ask you, please, let's ask the FDA. Let's be nice. Dr. Woodcock is a nice lady. We met her. I have faith that she's going to do the right thing for us. She knows how badly we want these drugs. And I just pray that ALS, this is the year that ALS gets kneecapped and becomes treatable. We can knock this thing down this year. All right. So guys, as always, the first 3 nights are up already in a nice, pretty format on our YouTube page, ALS News Now. Be sure you're following our Twitter for the latest updates at ALS_now. Like today, that we have breaking news all the time. We showed the news earlier about the drug, about the Treg thing, which, by the way, that's huge. Do not underestimate that. Dr. Rose Dindler today announced that she had some success protecting motor neurons in the brain. So that was good news. And then finally, the brainstorm call this morning was positive. They announced they are still talking to the FDA. This is not over. This drug ain't dead. It's not a failure. We are failures. That's it. We as people are looking at this completely wrong. We are not seeing ALS for what it is and how desperately we need these drugs. And by we, I mean society in general. I mean, obviously everybody here knows what's at stake. So, all right, that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching tonight. And as always, I'll see you online. Bye, guys.